sure I have some head view today. Okay. All right, well, that felt like a long break. So it's good to start with a standing practice after a break because it's more spacious and it's kind of a gentler way to re-enter your yoga practice if you took a break. So let's just start getting centered and then we'll talk about our class a little bit. So find your way into your non-dominant cross-legged position. Try to tap into the weight of your legs. Try to have the knees lower than the hips. And just kind of move around the sitting bones until you feel more balanced. Try to adjust your shoulders to align above the hips. And without pushing the abdomen forward, try to move the shoulder blades toward the chest and keep the skull right over the spine. And then attempting to maintain the shoulder position, join your hands together in front of your heart. And just take your light, gentle gaze away from your brain toward your cheeks. And just start to tune in to that very specific radio station of presence where you can more clearly hear the breath. You can more clearly sense physical body. You can detect busyness of the mind. And it's here at the beginning of your practice. If you have some sort of intention for this practice, for this day, for your life in general, for another person, it's very powerful to just kind of mentally utter it. Just kind of embedding it into your practice. As you're ready, bowing toward the heart. Moving your hands back down to your thighs, lifting your head, letting your eyes gently open. And welcome. So we're going to do the standing practice, as I said, and we kind of always do the same poses, but we take different doorways into the poses sometimes, or we put certain context around the poses to make them kind of refreshing and new and more interesting, so that we always challenge the conditioning and the habits in the body, and we can always keep our practice fresh. So today we're going to kind of explore how the standing poses feel if we were to consider that the head was the feet and the feet are the head. So this is all about lines of energy. And so when we're doing our standing practice, I'm going to be kind of reminding us to sense the feet as you would sense the head when you were upside down, and vice versa. And towards the very end of the class, we'll just take one attempt at just the preparation for headstand, not the full inversion, but just to kind of apply all these concepts into a more experiential pose, or preparatory pose. So we're going to begin in child's pose. You can make your way there. And just take some time to take the knees wide, your feet together, your butt as far back as it will go. You might prop your head if the floor kind of puts your head in a less than ideal position. And then try to take the tailbone toward the floor. And we're going to activate the arms, so your arms should be completely straight. There's opposition in the upper and lower arms. So you should feel the inner wrists rolling down and the inner upper arms curling up toward the ceiling. And if you're able to, just kind of scrubbing the hands toward the shoulders to engage the shoulders into the torso, which also helps pull the chest forward. And we're about to do downward dog, so just sensing how the arms are going to kind of maintain the exact actions that they're doing now. I'm just getting the arms kind of fired up for downward facing dog. Make sure your index fingers and your thumbs have as much weight as your pinky fingers do. On an in-breath, moving into a hands and knees table pose, stepping the knees in to be hip distance wide and taking the feet apart so they're also in line with the knees. And the wrists are right beneath the shoulders, maybe slightly forward from that position. Take the toes underneath, and on an exhale, extending the legs. And don't worry about the heels coming down. Try to get your hips really drawn back away from the wrists. Try to press your leg bones back. Open up the backs of the knees. Feel the same arms you just put into action with your child's pose, still doing the same actions here. And so technically this is considered an inversion, but just treat your hands like they are actually feet, really pressing with more intention into the floor, and also lengthening with the hips and the sitting bones away from the hands. Take your weight forward now, just pausing for a moment in a plank position. And then place your knees again and sit back for child's pose. So you're going to attempt to move from here to cobra pose without coming up very high. So it's as if you're kind of trying to sneak underneath a very low fence. Take the chin and chest along the floor. Make sure the feet open up hip distance wide. Take a moment to rotate your legs so the front thighs are centered. And then slide the hands next to the lowest floating ribs. Tipping the pelvis back. On an exhale, pressing up into cobra pose. It doesn't have to be extremely deep cobra pose. Just try to keep the chest forward, the inner upper arms rotating towards the outer upper arms. And then you're going to bring yourself back to downward dog. Really intentionally moving the hands into the floor. So don't feel like you stop where the hands meet the floor, that you continue somehow rooting the hands into the floor deeply. Same with the sitting bones. You don't end there. Just continue to lengthen toward the ceiling through the sitting bones. And now start to tiptoe the feet in, the hands in. You'll come into Uttanasana, so Arda Uttanasana. You might need your blocks here. So putting blocks under your hands if you have trouble meeting the floor. The feet are going to stay hip distance. And right now you're in your Arda position. So your hands are right under your shoulders. You're looking forward. Your legs are working into a straighter position. Your lumbar spine is either flat or concave. Roll your inner knees back. On an exhale, you're going to go into your full Uttanasana. So moving the chest toward the thighs, moving the hands closer to the feet. Maybe the elbows bend, maybe the blocks come down. Still working to your straightest legs. And sensing into those legs, combing through the tension of your legs with your breath as the comb. You're going to stay 3 more breaths. Let your head go. And now we're going to come into Parjva Uttanasana. So this is where we kind of address the legs individually. If you're not working with the block yet, you might want to grab one for this piece of our Uttanasanas. So you're going to take a block and put it about a foot away from your outer right foot. And then take your left hand and grab your left ankle or calf muscle or shin, whatever height up the leg you need to grab to match your hand on the block. So you're going to have your hands at the same height. And then you're going to move your chest to align so that the breastbone is coming right in line with the right leg. And this doesn't mean that your right buttock just turned back. So your butt, imagine your butt's up against the wall. We're not trying to rotate the pelvis. We just shifted our spine to one side. Okay, so it's like you slid over. Take a look forward, take an inhale, and then exhale, come toward your right leg. And kind of wing out the elbows, which helps you keep a broadness to the chest. So rather than pinning your elbows to your sides, widen them out to the side so they're pointing outward. We'll just stay about 5 breaths here. And notice how this helps you get into the right leg a little bit more individually, a little bit more deeply. On an in-breath, look forward. We're just going to move the whole thing over to the left. So you'll take your block about a foot off the side of the outer left foot, in line with that outer left foot. Right hand grabs the left ankle from behind. And then again, shifting your torso over so you're centered up with your chest and your left leg. Without the buttock poking back. So without the left buttock rotating back. Big in-breath looking forward. And then exhale, draw yourself in nice and close to your left leg. Remember to take those elbows wide. One more exhale. And then inhale. Back to center, bend your knees a little bit, grab hold of your hips, firm up your stomach muscles, and then inhale to come up. And once you're up, step yourself into mountain pose. So we have to really kind of bring a lot of concentration to the feet, because eventually the feet will be our hands, and eventually the feet will be our head, and maybe not, but in yoga, all things begin in the imagination. If we can't imagine them, we can't really do them. So put yourself in mountain pose, shoulders, hips, and heels, your skull adjusted so you're directly above the spine, your chin level with the floor. And then just try to really sense deeply into your feet, all the points of contact, all of your toes, the ball mounds, the heels. There's also awareness to the parts that don't touch the floor, the inner arches of the feet. This is Pada Bandha, where we have that first upward draw of energy from the earth. And again, just visualizing that you don't stop where the feet meet the floor, that you continue energetically. If we're in a headstand and we don't have that image of our head moving down into the floor, we just feel really scrunched up and oppressed by gravity, and the neck gets uncomfortable and we don't have a lot of integrity. So we really learn these teachings standing on our feet first. The legs are firm. Muscles of the legs are moving, hugging onto the bones. And then once you have that foundation, every in-breath, just imagine you're floating some length along the spine, filling up a small balloon between the vertebrae. You're lifting a little taller through the top of the head. The neck is long. The shoulders are relaxed. So the way you're standing now, in yoga, when you master the full headstand, Shirshasana, this is exactly the position, except it's turned upside down. So you're literally on your head, but you have the arms exactly where they are now. It's really perfecting these lines of energy and all of the alignment points. in the opposite orientation. So go ahead and blink your eyes open, shake out your limbs, release the pose. And we're going to go through a series of our standing poses, just kind of imagining the feet, which will be against the floor, of course, the work they do against the floor, and then we're going to be imagining doing that work without the contact of the floor. So the first set we're going to do is triangle and balancing half moon to the right, but you can just go ahead and place your blocks to each back corner of the mat. And if you prefer to work with a chair today, you're going to just have your chair seat available to the right, and then you'll have to move it to the left when it's time. So those of you kind of facing the camera with the short end of the mat, well, it looks like you already set yourself up there, Sylvia. So I was going to say you can just set up if you want to face me, but looks like you've got it, what you're going to do. So that's perfect. So we're going to jump or step out and just bring your hands up chest level. And without popping up into the sky, try to spread the feet nice and wide. And we're going to turn the right leg so the toes point out to the right, left toes come in. And we're coming, I was moving into warrior one. We're coming into triangle pose. So just pivoting slightly in with your left foot, intersecting the right heel to the left arch. Your hips should be on the same plane, facing that long edge of your mat. Make sure you haven't rotated your right knee. So we want to have the knee looking at the toes. That requires us to move the flesh of the thigh from the inner thigh to the outer thigh. Okay, so we're going to take the arms up and open, and then rotate from your elbows to your fingertips, palms face down. Nice inhale here. And exhale, extending to the right. You're going to ground your hand to the chair seat or the block. Put your hand in line with your shoulder. And then reaching up through that top arm. So when we practice this pose, which is our one of our most fundamental poses, we can get really habitual about it. So today, to keep it fresh and to make it really apply to those down the road, one day, someday, maybe never inversions, really be intentional with your feet, which one day will be without contact of the floor if you're upside down. So really bringing the feet deeper into the floor, plugging them in, not just like you have pancakes on your ankles, really root them down. And then similarly with the top arm, extend up through the fingernails, lengthen. So we're stretching these lines of energy, which give us a lot of stability. We don't employ the lines of energy, we're going to topple, whether we're upside down or not. Okay, so we're going to take this into balancing half moon. We only move into that pose once we feel solid in Trikonasana. So taking the top hand to the hip, you're going to bend your right knee, tracking with the toes. You're going to move your blocker chair forward a little bit. And on an exhale, stepping into your right leg firmly, raising the left leg. And then floating limbs, you need to imagine that they do have contact with something and really reach out through the fingertips, reach out through the ball mounds of your left foot, out through the heel of the left foot. Plug that right foot in. 10 feet under the foot, you have roots. And then back to Trikonasana, hand to the hip, step back in, beautiful, good transitions, everyone. And then on an in-breath, lift yourself up. Turn the toes forward. Jump or step back in. And then put yourself back in mountain pose. Let your body just kind of find its way back to that perfect feeling pose. Close the eyes if you're able to stay balanced. Sense your breath. Sense the feet, connect them deeply with intention. Notice imbalances in your feet. Some of us pronate, which means we kind of hold weight in a not balanced way. So if you're lighter on your big toe ball mounds. If you're lighter on your inner heels, distribute some weight there. Same goes for small toe ball mounds and the outer heels. Same with front to back on the feet. Good. And then you can blink the eyes open. We'll try the same thing to the left. If you already have your block placed, great. If you're using a chair, you'll want to move it to the left. If you're stepping out, just left foot leads this time, just to keep track of those habits, keep us balanced. Find your way open. Hands to the hips for now as we place the legs and the feet. So pause here. Just feel how the feet are connecting. Is it balanced? Is it strong? Is it deep? Okay, make sure the hips are aligning. We'll take the arms up. Open, elbows to fingertips, rotate down, firming the legs. Inhale strongly, exhale, extending left, lengthening the left side body, taking the hand down to the chair or the block. So begin always with the roots. Put the feet in a more balanced position. Be more intentional with the depth of connection with the floor. Lift the inner arches of your feet, draw up there, or imagine it. If you don't actually know how to control that, imagine lifting the inner arches of the feet up. Don't look at your left knee, but try to sense it's pointing at your left toes. And then reach through the top arm. So it's not just floating there in space on screensaver mode, it's actively lifting. And then once you feel this strongly, this pose is in good integrity, then you can start to transition to Arda Chandrasana. Hand comes to the hip. The left knee bends, tracking in line with the toes. You're going to move the block forward, the chair seat forward. You're going to step in with the right foot. And on an exhale, lift yourself up into that pose. So the limbs that don't get to touch the block of the floor, we have to be really good with our imaginations, giving them some purpose, some sense of direction, some lines of energy. We don't have that easy reference of touch. So we have to be really aware that we're reaching out through the right big toe ball mound, the right heel, fingernails. And then go ahead and find your way back to Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle. Nice work. Use an inhale to pull yourself up with length. Rotate the toes forward and jump or step back in. Okay, so back to mountain pose. If you're able to work the feet closer together, the legs to joining, keep working toward that goal. Imagine you're up against a wall with the shoulders, the buttocks, the heels, the skull. Allowing the breath to flow and regulate, become smooth and easy. Feeling those roots under the feet, the lifting action through the top of the head. We're always in the same gravity field. When we're inverted, we have to resist against it in the opposite way. All right, so next set of poses, is Warrior Two into side angle pose. So you won't need your block until side angle pose, but we'll keep them where they are. And if you're using the chair, it's going to be off to the right. And right foot, left foot if you're stepping, otherwise you're going to spread the feet at the same time. Keep the arms and turn the feet. So right toes out, left toes in. Make sure your hips are back to facing evenly, broad side of the mat. Big inhale here, exhale, right knee above the ankle. Without the torso tilting, you don't want to imagine the book is on your head, without the torso lurching off to the right. So vertical spine, really grab the floor with the skirting of the outer left foot. Protect that little inner arch of your left foot, the little mouse house, little dome there. Try to anchor your knee toward the small toe, the right knee toward the small toe, knowing it tends to drift inward. Revolve the spine from right to left. Gaze is over the right fingers. And then make your feet really perfect. So evenness, rootedness, softness. We don't want to be clinging, which makes our whole situation above the feet very tense, rigid, and not so good at responding to movement. So keep your lower half as it is. Take an inhale, exhale, extending to the right. You're going to prop your hand outside the right foot on the chair seat or the block. And then take your left arm to your hand to your hip. Encourage the torso to rotate a little bit more out into the world, away from the floor. And then return your left arm to a vertical position. Wind the arm so the palm faces right and align the biceps with the ear. Extending through the left fingernails. Digging deeper through the outer left foot. Try to create that full body awareness. Try to feel the feet and the hands and the skull working in opposition. So really strong but equal lines of energy. And then inhale, you're going to return to Virabhadrasana 2. Don't let your lower half become less than what it is. So keep it as it is. Inhale, back to Warrior 2. Strong, good, looks great. And then straightening out the right leg. Turn the right toes forward. Jump or step in. And you're in Tadasana. The body has more spontaneous gravitation toward wise actions. We're staying here as long as we're still breathing kind of in a ragged way. Just noticing any residuals. Drop the shoulders. Lengthen through the crown like you've been hung up, like you're hung up on a hanger. Good. And now go ahead and blink the eyes open. Prepare for side 2. We'll step out left foot first if you're stepping. And go ahead and spread the feet. Keep the arms. Turn from the root of the thigh. Left toes out, right toes in. Winding your trunk from left to right to refine the alignment. Big inhale. Exhale, left knee over the ankle without the torso tilting. You might need to wiggle your foot out wider to keep the knee above the ankle. Let the inner shoulder blades release down your back. When you're inverted, you need to move those shoulder blades up your back. So it's the same action, just different orientation, of course. Pressing that left knee toward the small toe. And then make sure your gaze is softly over the left fingers. Really be tuned into the feet. They're all scrunched up under themselves. Spread the feet. Create space between big toe, small toe, ball mounts. Make sure you're even on the heels. Grab the floor with the skirting of the outer right foot. Protect the inner arch of the right foot. Keep what you've got. Inhale. Exhale, extend to the left. Place the left hand on the block or chair right in line with the shoulder. Vertically stack the right arm. Wind the arm in so your palm faces left. Move the biceps next to the ear, behind the ear. Continue to squeeze the left knee to the arm as you revolve the torso from left to right. Have 10 feet of roots under the feet into the floor. Extend more strongly through the right fingernails, but don't let your shoulder follow. Keep the shoulder plugged into the trunk. Feel the support. And then maintain the depth you have from the waist down. Inhale, back to Virabhadrasana 2. Beautiful. And then pushing into the left foot to straighten. Revolving the toes forward from the root of the thigh again. Left foot, right foot if you're stepping. Otherwise, join the legs and Tadasana. So as you develop Tadasana, hopefully the palms are starting to turn. at least toward your thighs, if not starting to turn toward the front body. Just imagine you have weights attached to each fingertip toward the floor. You're lifting through the crown of the head. You have a nice energy line from your chin to the occipital bone, the base of the skull. Shoulder blades continue to move toward the chest. And you're not just pancake feet on the floor, you have depth below the feet. Nice, great work. All right, blink the eyes open and shake the limbs free. We have lots of little sets today. So warrior 1 to 3 is next. And so you'll probably want to have both blocks for warrior 3, unless you're doing it hands-free. Have both to the right, otherwise chair seat to the right. Okay, halfway through class already. Time flies. All right, jumping or stepping. So right foot, left foot if you're going to step, otherwise spread the feet. Grabbing hold of the hips, turning the right toes to the right edge of the mat, and then pivoting in with the left foot significantly. About 80 degrees is usually a nice amount of turn for the foot. Just make sure you don't have your left foot pointing directly at the top of the mat. A little bit of turnout. Make sure you have the width between your feet that you need for the stability. Should be the same width as the width across the hip line. Okay, so not on a balance beam. Take hold of your hips and manually move them, cutting the right hip forward, cutting the left hip back. Did I say that right? No, I said that wrong. Cutting the left hip forward, the right hip back. Tailbone moves in. Legs are firm, especially the back leg, which tends to get forgotten. And then before we move anything else, just notice how your feet are habitually weight bearing right now. Okay, for a lot of us, it pulls to the right, to the forward leg side. So makes those corrections right away already. Balance the feet, spread the feet, distribute the weight, root down, depth. Take the arms up. Behind the ears, if you can get that far back, open the chest, shoulder blades are actively moving forward. Big inhale, exhale, right knee above the ankle without the torso lurching forward. So keep the book on top of your head. Powerful back leg. Create as much surface area across the bottoms of your feet, both feet, as you can. Be aware of your weight bearing habits and patterns. And then without changing anything, try to pivot off the left heel. So come off the left heel. Now your right toes or left toes are facing forward. You're off that left heel. Extend your torso over your right thigh. Okay. You can use the blocks if you'd like to. Otherwise, you're going to be hands-free. Keep the arms where they are. Step in with your left foot. On an exhale, raise the leg. Plug your right foot in 10 feet below the sole of the foot. Extend through your fingernails. Reach out through the left foot, especially the big toe ball mount and the inner left heel. Extend through the crown of the head like there's a laser beam shooting out of it. And now find your way back to warrior 1. Beautiful landing. Okay. And then pressing the floor away through the feet to straighten. Pivot wide, open the arms. Jump or step back in. You're back in Tadasana. So we have those wise actions going, but also now becoming aware of where you don't need to exert effort, where you don't need to contract. Drop any tension in the neck and shoulders. Unhinge your jaw. Soften your face. Soften your feet. Try to keep the breath. Give the breath enough space. So if you can be tense with your breath, not allowing your breath to be as full as it needs to be. Sensing the effects of warrior 1 and 3. Very invigorating poses. They can be tiring. Sensing how the mountain pose is evolving. Maybe you're not sensing that, but see if you've noticed any changes. And when you're ready, blinking the eyes open, shaking the limbs loose. And we'll prep for side 2. So chair over to the left or blocks if you're using them. Sometimes using the blocks just means you have them there and you're mentally using them. You might not actually touch them. Sometimes it is helpful just to know that they're there if you need them. Left foot, right foot if you're stepping. Otherwise, spread the feet at the same time. Good. Hands to your hips. And move from the root of the thigh, so the left toes point directly to the left edge of the mat, stepping maybe slightly out with the right foot to clear that space for the width of the hips. Firm and straighten both legs. Remember, the back leg gets a little bit lost sometimes, so give it purpose. Roll the inner right knee back, and then be really articulate with your feet. We have so many habits because we're so used to standing on our feet since we learned to walk. So be a little more interested than you usually are. Transfer weight now to the left, because we tend to, for most of us, we tend to kind of pitch weight over the feet towards the front leg set. All right. I said that wrong again. To the right. You're transferring it to the right. All right. Take the arms up, extend through the fingernails, shoulder blades toward the chest. Take an inhale. Exhale, you're going to take the knee above the ankle without pitching the torso forward. So take the tailbone deeply into the soft tissue toward the front body. Keep your temples soft. Keep rolling the inner right knee back. Sense where you're lighter on that back leg foot and just try to be more even about it. And then without disturbing much of the pose, try to come off the back heel. Put the heel directly behind the toes. Begin to extend forward over your left thigh. Hands can come down if they need to. You're going to step in with the right foot on an exhale. Warrior 3. Remember, be intentional about that aerial leg foot. Reach out through the big toe ball mound, the inner heel. Plug that left foot into the floor 10 feet down. Extend through your fingernails, extend through the crown of the head. And then slowly transition back to Virabhadrasana 1. Nice landings. And then pushing down through the left foot, straighten the leg. Rotate open wide, arms come level with the floor, and then jump or step in. Good. Back in mountain pose. So feel the weight of the arms, feel the lightness of the spine, that idea that you're hanging on a hanger. Rather than your feet jamming into the floor, let them continue down through the floor. Keep your eyes looking toward your cheeks as you continue to lift through the crown of the head. Feeling that outer body compactness, inner body spaciousness, and the added spaciousness of the vertical extensive lines of energy, down through the feet, up through the crown. Last set is Parjva Uttanasana, the revolving triangle. So again, chair seat or blocks to the right, both of them. And you'll make your way to your right side. So you can step right foot, left foot. You can slide the feet without disturbing yourself a whole lot. Take your hands to your hips And move the legs into the same position you put them in for warrior one. Parjva Uttanasana. Rotating the hips, so cutting that right hip back, left hip forward. Legs stay straight for this one, so firm and straighten the legs. Really be articulate with the balancing of the feet. Again, you have to transfer weight to the left to make it more even. We'll raise the arms. Come to the top of the in-breath, and then exhale, align the chest with the right shin and put your blocks evenly to either side or the chair seat. You can put it above the right foot. If you're using blocks to either side evenly around inner and outer right foot. And then steer your torso, so you're really aligning your chest with your right leg. On an exhale, bowing deeply toward the leg. I really want to give your all to pushing your feet more deeply into the floor, being more balanced about the weight bearing happening in your feet. You can see now your left inner arch of your foot. Make sure you have one. If you need to restore it, try to grab the floor a little bit more intentionally with the outer left foot. The legs should be straight and firm. If you were to grab your kneecaps, they wouldn't wiggle around. And then every time you inhale, like there's a rope attached to the top of the head, someone's gently tugging it. Lengthen. Not just a floating head, not just pancake feet. If we can work these lines of energy, we can really create this wonderful depth that gives us support in our poses. So on an in-breath, come to your Arda position, half position, concave or flat lumbar. You can either keep your hand down, your left hand down for a more modified approach for revolving triangle, or some of you might want to move your left hand over to that right block. More compact pose, you have to make sure you can support it with stability, otherwise not worth it. Give yourself space until you can kind of master the stability. And then we're going to move the right hand onto the right hip. On an exhale, pushing down into the floor, move into the floor 10 feet down. Rotate the torso to look to the right. And then finally take the top arm up and actively extend up through the fingernails. Reach out through the crown of the head. Let the crown of the head be an exit point for the line of energy of your spine that begins at the tailbone. Good. And now go back to Arda Parjva Uttanasana, both hands down. And we're going to come out of it leading with our arms kind of windmilling and coming up. Turn your toes forward. Good exits, everyone. And then jumper step the feet together. And holding Tadasana. Try to compress the flesh of your buttocks toward the front body, helping lengthen those hip flexors. Compress your thighs from the front thighs to the back thighs. Keep your skull directly above the spine. Allowing the breath flow to be what it is. And then as you're ready, eyes blink open, free the limbs. Transfer your chair or your blocks to your left. And then you'll find your way to your wide stance. Hands come to your hips. You pivot to face the left edge of your mat. And then right away, working on the feet. Spacious, even, rooted. Hips aligning and compact, legs firm, especially your back leg, which we tend to forget about. Widen the back of the right knee. Take the arms up. Come to the top of an in-breath, exhale, extending over the left leg, placing your hands evenly to either side of the left foot on the chair or on the blocks. Just spend a few breaths here in Arda Parjva Uttanasana with a half intense stretch, side stretching pose. Try to create as much length to your left torso as you have it to your right. Keep track of the feet. They never are off duty. They're always going to be something we have to continue to refine. And that will be true of the head and the arms when we're inverting. And then top of the in-breath, next exhale, bow toward the left shin. Lengthen through the crown. Keep working with the feet, connecting more deeply and evenly with the earth. Four more exhales. Remember, you have a clear view of the right arch of your foot. Check it out. Try to recover some of that doming effect, which is very supportive, used all the time in architecture for strength. On an in-breath, you'll come back to your Arda position, and you're either going to keep your right hand down where it is, or you're going to transfer it for a deeper pose to the position of the outer left foot. And for all of us, left hand comes to the hip. Go deeper through the feet. Notice how it gives you the room to start to rotate the torso to the left. You have to keep track of the feet. Let the feet really dictate when you go farther, when you're ready to go farther. Then take the top arm up. Extend up through the fingernails. Lengthen toward the ceiling. Reach out through the crown of the head. Go deeper through the feet. And after an in-breath, slowly make your way back to Arda Parjva Uttanasana. And then you're going to windmill out of it. Lead with your right arm coming up. Pivot the feet, toes forward. And then jumper step your way back to Tadasana. All right. So we're going to take these ideas and these experiences into one inversion, which is going to be Dolphin Pose, which you may have done in the past with me. It's a forearm version of downward dog. But before we do that, give yourself a nice couple moments in child's pose. Feel free to use your hands as a little pedestal for your forehead, or you can keep the arms extended, but really make this pose about rest rather than the active arms we started with. You might want to soften the elbows and support the head with the hands. Okay, so you're going to start to set up the dolphin pose. It's just like table, but your elbows are under your shoulders, your forearms are grounded, and your hands are grounded. So we want the elbows under the shoulders, we want the knees in line with the hips, meaning your thighs are vertical. And your feet should be as wide as your knees. And now pay attention, your hands are now your new feet. I should say your feet are now your hands. So you want to press into your index fingers, press into your thumbs. You want to balance the hands because these are your new feet. So you're bringing a lot of emphasis to evenness across the ball mounds in your hands, the finger pads, the heels of the hands, inner and outer, just like the feet. We're going to curl the toes underneath. On an exhale, start to extend your legs. And then creep the feet in slightly closer toward the elbows. Doesn't have to be much. Driving those hands into the floor, driving the forearms into the floor, lifting the sitting bones. Now you get to play with right leg floating up on an exhale. The foot that usually had the reference of touch with the floor, you know those wise actions now from standing practice, so correct the foot. For most of us, we need to reach out more emphatically through the big toe ball mound and the inner heel. Straighten the leg, line of energy. Don't just have a dead leg hanging from a low back. Touch down with the foot. Exhale, raise the left leg. Do not rotate your pelvis. Remember your side Uttanasana. We're not rotating the pelvis. Good, you guys look great. Touch down and place the knees. And widen the knees, feet together, come back to child's pose. Give yourself a full minute here. As you're ready, you're going to move on to your back. Okay, we're going to take one active bridge pose. So once you're on your back, try not to use any head support. Attempt to angle your chin toward the collarbones. And then step the feet in as close as they will go to the sitting bones, the heels toward the sitting bones. Make sure your toes are in front of your heels. And go back to balancing the feet. We all have patterns here. Some of us get scrunched up in the feet. Try to anchor, that's the word, into your big toe ball mounds and your big toes and your inner heels. That's important for this pose. Inner feet. Anchor down. Grab the edges of your mat with your hands. Try to bring your forefingers under the mat so you can have more of a palms up position, which helps the outer upper arms come down, helps the shoulders anchor down. Take the tailbone toward the ceiling, closing that gap between your low back and the floor. On an exhale, raise the hips by pushing down into the big toes and the inner feet. Drive the hips higher. Roll the inner thighs down. Use your shoulders for support. Outer upper arms, try to use the surface area there. Hold the mat in such a way it helps you rotate the outer upper arms down. Keep track of the inner feet. Another inversion of shoulder stand. This is the doorway to shoulder stand, this bridge pose. Good. And then walk the spine down, putting as much space between the vertebrae as you can. Lengthen, 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 all the way down, back to the sacrum. Drop the sacrum into the floor like an anchor. Restore your neutral lumbar curve. Release the mat. And then hug the legs in for reclining child's pose. You might grab the shins, you might grab the thighs. And then sliding your hands over your knees. Start to circle the knees, massaging your lower back. Pause and start to move in the second direction. Bigger circles, smaller circles. Try to really touch all the bony parts of that plate with the floor as your masseuse. And then step your left foot down, cross your right leg over your left. And you're going to come into supine twist. Drop the legs to the left, left hand holds, right arm unfolds sideways, head rolls to the right. Inhale back to center. Uncrossing the legs. Switching to the left leg crossing over the right. Letting the legs move to the right. Right hand holds them there. Left arm unfolds sideways. Head looks down that left arm. And from here, any other movements your body needs before Shavasana. Any props you need for support in Shavasana. The 4-minute Shavasana today. Once you're lying down, take some time to lengthen out the limbs. All the effort of the legs and feet, we can excuse it now from the body. With your eyes softly closing, looking toward your cheeks, away from the brain. Just start to bring a softness to your face. Across the brow line, around the eyes, into the eye sockets, the cheeks, all the tiny muscles of contraction around the mouth and the lips. Relax your tongue all the way to its root. Just letting it rest at the floor of the mouth. Softening into your throat. Identifying the heavy anchor points of the body here and kind of the oozing down, Salvador Dali kind of esque, releasing into the floor of the skull, shoulders, the hips, the heels. And the secondary weighted parts like your hands, your calf muscles, buttocks. And out of that depth springs a flourishing of your breath. A weighted blanket across the heart falls away. And just be with whatever is here. You don't really get to pick the outcome. And hopefully you're enjoying some benefits of the practice here. Ease maybe in the body, maybe some connection with presence, maybe some lapses between thought waves. Without inviting any strain or agitation, try to cycle in a few very thorough breaths as if you're going to perform a complete exchange of the breath in the body. As you inhale, just imagine the breath touching every little space inside of you, underneath the skin, filling the entire space with your breath. Exhaling out the same breath, every last drop flows out. Follow that breath out farther than you would when you're not thinking about your breathing. And cycle back to your spontaneous breathing. Just taking a few final moments just to observe without acting upon. Begin to invite very simple movement, maybe wiggling the fingers and toes, maybe slowly rocking your head from side to side. Just kind of exploring as if you're thawing out. Maybe start to move the elbows and bend the knees. As you're ready, start to move on to your side lying position. And then take your hands against the floor and pressing down firmly. Use that pressure to help you bring the torso and head up, coming to a seated position. And then taking just a pause, seated, to sit with what is, to acknowledge the effects of your practice, maybe reiterate the intention. Take an inhale through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Thank you. Happy Monday. Hope to see you guys soon. We'll do more of this on Friday. Different inversion to practice. Thanks, you guys. Bye.